So welcome everyone. Today we are going to decode stress and help you understand your stress signals and your stress response, which is a very important topic for your highest health. I'm Dr. Tara Campebll, and not only am I excited about this topic, but I'm most excited to introduce you to my new colleague at Higher Health, Nicole Argo-Ma. Nicole is a nurse practitioner, psychotherapist, and coach, and we are your hosts for today's empowering conversation, which we hope inspires further questions and interest for your personal health. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. So great to be joining the team at Higher Health. And I can't wait to get to know all of you guys in real life.
So to get to this juicy conversation we're going to be having, can you say a few words about stress and the importance of what we are going to be talking about?
Absolutely. So stress
Loaded
is really it's a loaded question. What is stress?
Yeah.
So stress is actually an integral part of our lives. It's really important and it can be really beneficial to us. However, it's also important to recognize when it starts spiraling out of control and when it can lead to burnout, and just recognizing these signs and knowing how to manage them are really critical to our overall well-being. So we can think about stress like the tides of an ocean, really ebbing and throwing. At times it serves us, helps us to rise to challenges. It's really those waves and those tides that help get our boat moving, right? Like if we think about being in a situation where we're about to get hit by a bike, before we even register what's going on, our stress response kicks in and we jump out of the way. Or when we have a really important presentation going on, our stress response kicks in and we're able to think clearly, focus, and get going. However, it's also recognizing when those nice waves and that gentle current turns into a storm and how to sort of manage that storm. So today, that's what we're really going to be going into.
We're going to be decoding just that, recognizing when stress starts to spiral and threaten or consume us and our overall well-being. It's about understanding the signs, knowing when that water level has risen too high, and realizing we're on the verge of burnout. So let's decode.
So it's really about taking that step back, reassessing, adopting strategies to manage and reduce the rising tide. And ultimately, it's about keeping our heads above water. We need to understand stress isn't the villain. It has its role to play, and it has a really valuable role. And it's really about moderation and taking everything in stride and in balance.
And leveraging those silver linings, I like to
say.
So we'll be sharing personal stories of our journey of walking through the fire many times over, as well as clinical experience that we've learned along the way. So who is this presentation for? This is for men and women aged 30 to 70, is not tied to that range, but who are experiencing low energy, mood changes, sleep difficulties, headaches, muscle tension, maybe pains, cognitive concerns, brain fog, decreased memory, and who want to reset their mind and body for vibrant energy, mental clarity, and overall vitality in order to accomplish all that you want to do in your life.
So the next 30 minutes, we're really going to get into how to understand stress and recognize those early signs of burnout. We're going to go into the practical strategies for how to counteract stress and burnout. And then we're going to talk about how and when to reach out for support and guidance when we need it.
A quick disclaimer, the information we're about to share is for educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and is not intended as product recommendation or endorsement of any special tests, products, procedures, opinions, or any other information. Just have to get that out of the way. But of course, we want to support and educate and inspire.
Absolutely.
So who are we and why listen to us talk about this topic? I'm Dr. Tara Campebll, naturopathic doctor. You know I love IV therapy, and we are just launching our Mito Makeover program. And I'm excited to introduce you further to Nicole Argo-Ma, nurse practitioner, psychotherapist, and coach. I feel really fortunate that our paths have crossed, Nicole, and you bring such a unique offering to the office, and we've really wanted to expand out the mindset component and coaching. And so Nicole has worked with clients in the hospital setting and in the community for the past 10 years. She is a lover of nature, travel, and she loves reading a book and sipping on her cacao tea with her cat beside her. And Nicole, maybe just share a little bit about your background training and where you obtained your psychotherapy and nurse practitioner degree.
Yeah, so my background as a registered nurse, I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing in Andrews University in Michigan back in 2012, and then I obtained my Master of Nursing Nurse Practitioner degree from the University of Toronto. And with that, I'm able to, see people as a nurse practitioner and kind of work through the physical concerns that people are working through, but also I'm able to really go deeper into those mental and emotional concerns. And that's where I bring psychotherapy into it. I started with psychotherapy in the hospital setting with my clients and really fell in love with it and expanded to psychotherapy and coaching, as well as integrative nurse practitioner appointments in the community setting.
And so again, I'm really excited for people to learn more about the specifics of that. And also, I hear Michigan is beautiful.
It's beautiful. A lot of nature, similar weather. We still had winters there, so that was maybe a little bit of a downside, but it's an absolutely stunning place. Lots of really beautiful lakes, small towns, and really amazing for the outdoors.
Good for a cold plunge.
There you go.
And a paddle.
And a paddle. So similarly, I'm so grateful, Tara, to have been introduced to you and to the team at Higher Health. I couldn't resonate more with your mission, your values, and just your vibrant personality. I'm so excited to see where we grow together and to see the people that we can help together. And just to introduce Tara a little bit, I know a lot of you know her, but she's a naturopathic doctor who has helped thousands of women and men in the last 13 years of practice. She is soon to be a published author, which is so exciting.
I'm coming. It's been a long process in the making, but all important things happened along the way to finally be ready for it
now. Absolutely. And the launch of your Mito Makeover program is just so exciting. All of these big things in the works and coming out into the world. And it's so needed. And we're so lucky to be part of it. Tara's a yogi and a want to be yogi again, a current tap dancer. You may have seen her awesome videos, a cold plunger. And I can say I, for one, am inspired by the cold plunging, an entrepreneur, a mompreneur, and importantly for this presentation, a burnout and anxiety survivor.
Yes, and we will talk more about that right now. So, our picture didn't show up here. We had such a great picture of us. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. We are getting personal here. We've both walked through the fire of burnout, pun intended. And Nicole, why don't you share a little bit about your story, what led you to now, and just along the way of stress and burnout for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Working through managing stress has been an ongoing thing that I've incorporated throughout my life. And I will say that a recent example of when I experienced burnout was at the beginning of the pandemic. And I know a lot of people, it was really kind of that wake-up call. It was getting that rug ripped out from beneath us and really forcing us to reevaluate our lives. So for me, that how that sort of presented is I was working in the hospital at that time. As you can imagine, it was a stressful environment. There was a lot of, we were being redeployed to different areas of the hospital. There was just a lot going on. And that for me ended up bringing up a lot of stress. And so how that looked like for me was really low energy. Really, it felt very drained all the time, regardless of the sleep that I got. Implemented a lot of strategies to try to combat this, but I still found myself getting into lower moods, lots of anxiousness coming up, difficulty concentrating, and really just feeling that cynicism, not cynicism, but maybe that detachment towards my work, but also kind of towards life, like looking at the trees outside and things that used to be so vibrant and beautiful and would really touch the soul were just things that I felt like I was an outsider looking in. And for me, I think one really important thing about burnout, about feelings of anxiety, about having these moments of being forced to reevaluate your life, like a lot of us did in the pandemic, is, really touching base with what are my values and was I getting burned out because of the situation, this like an unrelenting situation around me. Part of it was, but part of me was not living in alignment with my values, not finding that fulfillment that I needed for my work. So, while I worked within a beautiful, incredible, caring team, I wasn't really able to provide that deep care that I wanted to with my clients. I wasn't able to get to the root causes, to really get to that more emotional, to have the time to get into the more emotional aspects of health. And so I pivoted, right? That was a wake-up call for me to pivot. And I actually pivoted. I had started previously kind of on on the side a private practice with psychotherapy, and I pivoted out. It was a wake-up call for me to pivot out of the hospital. And it's interesting because it was kind of trading one stress for another stress. And I learned that you don't just pivot out of something and everything goes away. It's really when you pivot out of something, you have that time now. It's really being strict with implementing these strategies that are really important for maintaining good health. So I kind of left one fire and went into this other kind of fire of an entrepreneurship. And it's been a really exciting journey, but also one that's forced me to remain disciplined. I think that was like a really big lesson for me.
It's so interesting if we could go back to those times, those actual times, because you sound so clear about it now, and that, oh, you moved through it, you managed the challenges, but I don't think we can really appreciate how hard those times are unless we're actually in it. So to have thoughts and build something new when you're in a state of burnout is just so difficult. It's like you can't make decisions in that state. And, you know, it is a time when you might want to stop everything to regroup. And it sounds like you didn't stop everything, but you completely pivoted. And yeah, I know for myself, when I've reached that point of full burnout, I'm immobilized at that point. We'll talk about fight, flight, freeze, but I would really get to that freeze point of nothing made sense. I felt so disconnected in the world, in what I wanted to do, wanted to stop various things, but I was also guided through that time. And that's what we want to do as well, because we really need to be connected as a society and to get the right support and nourishment. The word is coming in already, because those times are when we are not alone. We cannot be alone in that time. So I have very good advice in that time not to stop things, and actually people pushing me to stay engaged, to just try and not lose my footing. And it did make a difference in terms of, it's like step by step, you start to regain your functioning. I've, felt the light bulb just go back on again, where things were clear, the trees were brighter again. But gosh, when you're in those real down out burnout phases, it can be immobilizing.
Yeah, it can be immobilizing. It can be really, really dark, and it can be hard to find that way out. And it's really, like you're saying, really important to have that support around you. And it's like such a thing to be grateful for, and to be able to really be able to hang on those lifelines that we have around us, and to feel our worthiness, even to be able to reach out for the support. And like, I think you highlighted such an important feature of taking things one step at a time, because that's all you can do.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, just you're stronger on the other side, right? When you get through it and look back, it is very empowering. It's very humbling when you're in it, but once you move through it, and of course we're not immune to it happening again, but it does strengthen you as a person. And so anytime clients come to me and they're in that state, I'm cheering them, saying, this is good. You're right where you need to be, because your body is speaking to you. And I know it's hard. And I, don't worry about cycling thought and different things. I've been there, and we're going to move you through it. And this is a good thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So let's dig in further.
Okay, so understanding stress. So stress is really a natural physical and mental reaction to life experiences. It's our body's way of responding to any demand or threat. So we're going to really be getting into recognizing the signs, the physical, mental, and emotional. But first, we wanted to pass this off to you. So what are some signs of stress that you can think of? What are some physical signs that you experience? Everyone really responds to stress differently. And I think it's really important, before we even get into what are some common signs of stress, what are some that are specific to you? So physical signs of stress, mental, emotional, even some causes of stress. Some things might be, people can do it like they're closing their eyes and walking in the dark, and it's not a problem for them. And other people can find that same situation really stressful. So what are some causes of stress for you specifically? Not comparing yourself to others, but what are some things that you personally might find stressful? So maybe just take a few moments, jot those down.
Pause the video.
Yeah.
Really write them down before we tell you some signs. It's important that you understand yours and become more aware of them.
Absolutely. And then we'll get into the importance of managing stress.
Yes.
And how we do that. So some physical signs of stress could be increased heart rate, palpitations. So you feel like your heart's kind of pounding in your chest, you're breathing a little bit quicker. You're not having those slow, deep, relaxed breaths. Sometimes we might even find we're holding our breath and not realizing it. Muscle tension, maybe in the shoulders, and bursts of short-term energy. This is kind of your body really preparing you for perceived threat. So if you think of a fight or flight response, your body's kind of getting you mobilized and into action. But in our everyday lives, we often don't need all of that because oftentimes our threats aren't physical. They can be, but oftentimes we're stressed about other things and our body's kind of giving this physiological or physical response. And these are a few things that may pop up, but just take a moment and tune into your body right now. How do your shoulders feel? How is your breathing? How are you feeling physically right now?
Mm-hmm. And you'll be more aware too the next time you're really experiencing stress of what those symptoms are.
Yeah.
Signs. Then on the mental, emotional, we've talked about that there's positive and negative signs, and stress is positive and it nudges us and we mount a response. We just don't want to stay in that state. And because the longer you're in that state, the more you're depleting your reserves and you're not able to manage as well. So you want to rise to the challenge, manage it, and then come back down. So positive states or signs of stress would be that increased concentration, alertness, focus. You're ready to fight. You're ready to go. But long-term, being in that state of fight, you can then reach flight, freeze, and this is where symptoms of anxiety, overwhelm, frustration, overthinking, and other mental and emotional aspects. In terms of the causes of stress, we'll just briefly go through these, and also, so you've already written down some of the ones that apply to you, but now we'll highlight, see if you missed any. So certainly work pressure, deadlines, expectations, long hours, job insecurity, or needing to pivot, interpersonal conflicts in the workplace, performance factors. So a lot of work pressures can certainly be the cause of stress. Personal relationships, so between family, friends, partners, colleagues, I guess that's more work-based, but personal relationships within, communication patterns, conflict, separation, and caregiving all come into play here as causes. And write down your specific causes. So what specific communication factors or what conflicts. Health problems, chronic illness, sudden health crises, pain, disruption to normal life, medical bills, fear, uncertainty, and a whole array of symptoms crop up here. And financial stressors, so bills, job uncertainty again, increasing interest rates, simply not having enough money to cover basic living expenses, or maybe just expenses for things you want to do. So you're never getting to that pleasure point of life and you're just getting by.
So how does stress manifest in the body? You've already kind of jotted down your notes. So see, maybe there's a little bit of overlap here. Maybe there are some additional things, but some physical manifestations. We can get headaches. So we kind of get that band of tension around our head. We can have trouble sleeping. So whether that's falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up a little bit too early, physical discomfort. So again, muscle tensions or body aches and pains, or even GI upset. So nausea or other GI disturbances, and changes to your weight and metabolism. Mentally and emotionally wise, we might notice that we're feeling more irritable. We're kind of at our wits' end at a lot of the time, feeling overwhelmed. We could have these symptoms of anxiety, depression, or even panic, difficulty concentrating, trouble with our memories, fears that we weren't really aware of before, things like that.
And when you get to the 1%, so your battery is completely depleted, you've exhausted your stores, that is when you reach burnout. And recognizing how stress leads to burnout is really important. Once you reach that point of full burnout that Nicole and I have highlighted on a personal level, you're in full-blown physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. You're 1% of that battery. You're depleted.
So physically, burnout can have a significant impact on our physical health. We might feel constantly tired despite getting up. It could be because we're having trouble sleeping, but even despite getting enough sleep, you might find we're constantly tired. We're getting sick more often, or we can experience other symptoms that we talked about as well, like those headaches and stomach aches. And then in extreme cases, or once kind of burnout goes for a chronic, longer amount of time, it can lead to more physical conditions like heart disease or more serious gastrointestinal concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, burnout will affect our cognitive abilities. We might find we're a bit more forgetful, difficulty making decisions, like you were saying, Tara, kind of that state of immobilization and that brain fog where we're having trouble coming up with things that used to be really clear and quick for us previously.
I would say brain fog is one of the number one things that people comment on in their first visit.
Yeah.
And emotional exhaustion. Oh, I wanted to say further, for myself, I would find just overthinking, like repeating things, just constantly second guessing at that
Yeah.
when I was at the full mental exhaustion point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then emotional exhaustion, this is actually also one of the first signs. It's just a change in your mood, feeling more drained, emotionally depleted, unable to muster up the energy for small tasks, detachment, cynicism that you talked about, Nicole, and lack of satisfaction leading you to pivot, disengaging from work and your personal responsibilities. Time for the causes. And share with us. So we've already gone through the causes of stress, and we know that chronic stress leads to burnout. So now Nicole's going to highlight further a little bit of the difference between stress and now full-blown burnout.
So chronic work stress. We might feel stressed from a big project at work or something that's going on at work, but when we have unrelenting work pressures that don't seem to go away, this can lead to us feeling stressed all the time. We're not really getting that break that we need, because really, as humans, just as nature ebbs and flows, we ebb and flow, and we're not getting that ebbing and flowing at work. That can lead to burnout. Feeling unappreciated. This can be at work, this can be at home, but we as humans, we have that need to feel valued, right? We do things, but we need, we give, but then there's also that receiving, and we're not receiving that appreciation. It can make it hard for us. It can make it hard for us to feel motivated, but also just that feeling of unappreciation in and of itself can lead to burnout, lack of control. So this is when we're in a situation that we feel trapped. We don't really know what to do. We don't see a way out, and we feel stuck and we feel trapped. And that just can lead us to, again, feeling of immobilization. And that can lead to burnout as well. Work life imbalance.
Always a challenge. Always
a challenge.
Yeah.
When that work bleeds into our personal lives, and we can't turn ourselves, we don't turn our work off. We're constantly checking email when we're at home, and we're not really feeling like we're getting that break. So I find, and we'll talk a little bit about boundaries and how to work with that, but when those two worlds are constantly colliding and intermingling, it can be tough to get that break that we need. And then there's personal factors. So these can be things that are going on in our home lives, whether that's interrelationship wise, or if there's any like life changes, both positive and negative. So a lot of times we think burnout and stress can only be due to negative life changes, but positive life transitions as well can lead to stress, and not really knowing how to handle that stress can then lead to burnout from even things that might be positive, because there's reservations about both things. There's conflicting emotions about really everything that we come across for the most part. And then there's also caregiving responsibilities, which I think a lot of us associate burnout with work. But I think it's important to highlight that caregiving can also lead to burnout. And a lot of us have this desire to give, and especially women have this desire to give and give and give without really receiving, and without really putting our needs first. And this constant giving without receiving can lead to burnout as well. And I think this is the common one that, Tara, you and I both see, that people will come in and they won't realize, or at least it's an example that I'll speak for myself. An example that I've seen is someone who came in, I'm not this was a mom of 3 young kids, and she wasn't working, but she felt very burned out. She was emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted, just wasn't feeling well. Was thinking maybe there was something physically wrong with her, because she couldn't think of what was going on. She's like, I don't work, I take care of my kids. This is a normal thing that I should be able to do. But physically, everything came back well, but when we kind of went into the nitty gritty of her life and her daily life, how much time was she spending for herself? Really none. But all of her life was really consumed about taking care of her kids, taking care of her home. She wasn't seeing her friends. She wasn't doing things that were interesting her. Even things like reading a book, which she used to love, she wasn't really making time for that. So things like that we can just sneak up on us. And I think it's important to recognize that can be another cause of burnout.
Yeah, when you were saying the causes, the two things that highlighted to me, or that I thought of, was the feeling unappreciated from others, but also not appreciating yourself, not taking that time to acknowledge what you've done. I just got goosebumps saying that. Right?
Yes.
And the lack of control with what we've just gone through post pandemic, there was a lot of fear, a lot of out of our control. But the silver lining and the beauty there was it did tap people back into what can they control, and their own daily health practices is something we can actually control. So yeah, and then to your point of what your patient had said, one story that highlights to me, or that this was recent, was a client when we were talking about mindset and priorities. And I've seen her on and off for a long time now, and she is constantly struggling with how can she put herself first, or how can she still manage all the caregiving needs of parents and children and then grandchildren. So always challenged by also acknowledging her own health needs. So she actually said, yeah, I know I need to put myself a little bit first. And I caught it and said, a little bit first? You need to put yourself a lot first. So
Yes.
it's interesting what mindset we have about our wellness and our stress and the factors that lead to burnout.
I love that. I love that it comes back to your own mindset, and I love the story. It's such a great illustration, and also the appreciating yourself. I think that's so powerful because it really starts with yourself. And I think
Exactly. It starts with yourself and ends with yourself. Do a
Absolutely.
case study.
Okay, so for our case study, we're going to talk about Linda. All of the details of Linda have been changed to maintain anonymity, but Linda is a 42-year-old woman who seemed to have it all together. And this is really a case of kind of Linda shifting into a state of burnout and then what she did to come out of it. So she seemed to have it all together. She drove her daughter to soccer practice every Wednesday. She brought 3 dozen cookies to every school bake sale, and she maintained an immaculate house and garden, as well as having a successful corporate career. She also rarely said no to an ask, and you can find her working on her laptop most nights after her daughter went to bed. But then the more the life buzzed around her, the less connected Linda felt to both herself and all aspects of her life. She had trouble sleeping, which is a common sign of stress and burnout. And whether due to the stress or to the lack of sleep, she found herself snapping at people over minor mistakes and feeling too tired to even keep up with her workout routine, which was previously very important to her. She struggled to keep her mind focused on work and wondered why she even bothered working so hard in a job that didn't seem to appreciate her or care about her well-being. So at one point, Linda decided enough was enough and she was ready to make some changes. And this is when I got to meet her. She knew the state of existing was not sustainable and she was ready to bring that vitality back into her life. And how she did this was starting small. Like Tara, you were saying, she started step by step, and in her motto and in the spirit of our motto here at Higher Health, she incorporated one change each from mindset, movement, and micronutrients. She started out with boundaries at work, delegating tasks she previously would have done herself, and limiting the time she made herself available after working hours. This took some time to really get to the place where she now feels she's in a place that she's happy with that boundary, but took a little bit of time to get there. But she started small and she's really made some really significant and impactful strides there. She also spent 20 minutes most mornings of the week practicing Qigong in her backyard. So this took advantage of both the benefits from nature as well as a mind-body connection and mindfulness that came from the practice itself. She also started adding more magnesium, both through her foods as well as Epsom salt baths to help her body cope with stress. And then over the following few weeks, these small changes led to visible results in her life. She was calmer and more resilient in the face of unexpected changes. She also felt more empowered as she actively made changes in a situation that previously felt out of her control. So like you were saying, kind of bringing that sense of control back into your life. Like, what are the things that I do have control over? She then ended up regaining that vibrancy of her life, and she remained disciplined, which I think is a really important factor here. She remained disciplined in her self-care strategies going forward, even when she was feeling better, to help prevent future burnout and to really help her keep her feeling like her best self.
You know what I love most about that is telling the story. Before we got to the treatment or the support she started to implement, was even just piecing those aspects together for her to recognize that she was overdoing it. And it sounded like the need for perfection and keep going and doing everything, but at the expense of not doing the right things for her soul and for her own self to keep her managing and doing all of those things. So I think just the exercise of becoming clear of your story and the aspects you want to change is so good. And the therapeutic space of you holding that space for her to really highlight this, and for me to highlight to that one client of yourself a lot first. That's the community, the connection, the therapeutic space of acknowledging these. And then the small steps that she started to make built and they grow, and then you bring more in, and it's actually manageable to completely bring on a lifestyle of wellness. The same goes the other way, is you can make poor choices or different things that don't nourish you, and then that builds to other choices and other choices. So just the small steps, move in the right direction. It's okay if you fall a little, and just keep gathering your wellness.
Absolutely. I love that.
So tell us how we can counteract our stress and burnout. What is most important?
Yeah. So before we dive into the strategies of counteracting stress and burnout, it's important to recognize the difference between the stressor and the stress that lives in the body. So the stressor itself is the specific situation, whereas the stress in the body is the result of the body's response to that situation. And it's important to distinguish between the two of these because they're both managed by different approaches. To combat the stressor, we can take two approaches. If the stressor is something within our control, we can problem solve to come up with a solution to the stressor. But if the stressor is not within our control, it's time to recalibrate. We often want to execute things in the way they were originally intended, and we can find ourselves stressed when things don't go as planned. And this is something that's really big for me. I have a way that I want to do things, and I want to keep doing that way, but this resistance to the change causes stress because resistance is really the mind fighting against reality. And it's a fight that I can't win. So it's really important, if we're not able to reach the goal, it's time to redefine the goal. So just taking that pause, is it time to redefine the goal? How do I redefine the goal? And then when it comes to managing stress in the body, the first step is understanding that we can't intellectualize our way out of that stress. So our body doesn't understand the difference between being stuck in traffic when you're late for an important meeting or being chased by a lion. So in order to manage the stress in the body, we need to complete the stress cycle, which is what we're going to talk about next.
Perfect. So you complete the stress cycle with these strategies for managing stress and burnout. And which is number one here? They're all important, but certainly movement. I always emphasize movement over exercise because it's movement that's most important, and movement is exercise, or exercise is movement, but it's easier to get our head around just movement. And start where you are. Whether it's, I've encouraged people that even mindful breathing is movement. So if you're in pain, or if certain things, or if when you're really stressed and fatigued and burnt out, the thought of exercise, it's just not going to happen. But breathing and acknowledging and appreciating that is exercise is really important. Bringing oxygen into your body because we're trying to wake you up, to revive you. So movement is key. And then also maintaining a healthy diet. I prefer to say nutrition over diet. So nutrition and nourishment. It's really about feeding you as if you were a child. And obviously certain things aren't good to give a child who, let's say, has a cold or whatnot, but what did they need to grow? And so go back to basics. And I love a child's plate, how they eat. It's so beautiful, colorful, simple. And so really get back to whole nutrition and what fuels you, and choose that. And that's the small steps, right? Building forward, you'll choose more of the right things. And you don't want to choose what's meeting your mood. Often when we're not feeling great and we're low energy and we're fatigued and anxious, or you name it, we're going to go to things that add to that feeling, right? So we want to switch gears. We want to open our mindset. We want to know how we want to feel, and then feed ourselves for that. Getting enough sleep is so important. It can be so challenging too. And that's also where the right practitioner support comes in. And also knowing that there's sleep and rest, and both are good. So in the face of not being able to sleep, resting is equally important. And so there's a lot of tools to nudge your body back into certain rhythms, and it might not be perfect, but you'll slowly get there with the steps we're talking about, and with care and targeted care. practicing mindfulness. It can be so many things, from just hugging a tree outside. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but it's so powerful. A tree is so strong and rooted and grounded. And so just hugging that tree and admiring how rooted it is, but yet flourishing upwards, and breathing oxygen-rich air, getting to nature. One of the first things I tell people when they're not sleeping or when they're feeling off or lower energies, you need to get outside. You need to let nature reset you. Cultivating self-expression. I really love how you explain this, Nicole. So maybe why don't you take it away from here and just go into cultivating self-expression?
Yeah. So a lot of times we keep our emotions bottled up inside, and self-expression and creativity is a way of releasing these emotions. And a lot of the times we say, I'm not creative. Creativity is for the artists and the painters and the writers, and that's not me. And I think there's a few things here. I think we lose our playfulness, this playfulness that we had as a kid, and we lose that a little bit as we grow up. And a lot of times we kind of, we have this stigma or this idea, sorry, of what creativity is, but I really like to view creativity as a lifestyle. Things like trying a new recipe is creative. Things like taking a new route home from work or from school or whatever it is can be creative, because you're opening new pathways. You're doing something you haven't done before. You're doing it in a different way. Things like gardening can be creative. Things that I really love are singing a song that I really, that's resonating with me in the moment. And it's expressing yourself, right? It's getting whatever's inside, from bringing it from the inside to the outside. So even if you have a terrible voice and this is not a song that you wrote yourself, singing a song that really is lighting you up in the moment, that's a way of being creative. Dance. This also incorporates movement and actually mindfulness. Closing the door, putting on a song that really is lighting you up right now, and just letting your body move in the way that it wants to move, not trying to look pretty, just allowing your body to move and release those stuck emotions. I think there's a lot of ways we can self-express and be creative in ways that we hadn't thought of.
Is to create.
The idea is to create. Absolutely.
Draw a rainbow on paper. Oh my gosh. Such a beautiful thing to watch. And it doesn't have to be a pretty rainbow. It's still, whatever turns out is really just fun to see.
Yeah. And even just being intentional about it. Like, Tara, I know you're doing the tap dancing right now. And I think that is just so fun and beautiful.
It's been so fun.
Getting that creativity back,
adding mind. Yeah, it's like your mind and your body, and remembering moves and getting the sequence. It's such a good mind body workout, and connecting to, right? You're with the community, you're out, you're moving your body. Yes. It's been amazing. I'm so glad I saw this sandwich board that advertised adult ballet, but I thought I want to do tap, and I took it one step further, and I actually went to their website and I looked, and sure enough, they have tap too. But I could have stopped there at, I don't want to do ballet, but I kept going and just listen to those signs. And
yes, perseverance.
Yeah, just be open.
Yes, be open, read the signs, and listen to them. I love that.
That was creating too, even just following it through a little bit further. I was curious, right? Be curious and create.
Yeah, exactly. You did something you might not have done previously. You saw the sound, went to the website.
And it led to more, right? Everything we do leads to more. So I love that. We're coming to a close here, but we also really wanted to highlight nutrition for stress management and prevention of burnout. It's so important. And when it comes to nutrition, think nourishment. We have primary foods and secondary foods. Primary foods are actually not foods. They're things that fuel us as a person. They fuel our soul. They make us feel happy and good. So just getting out to nature, or sitting with a friend, or laughing, or doing a hobby you like, finding what you like, creating. That's primary food. Secondary food is actual food. And this is choosing whole foods, healthy fats, healthy proteins. I like to say minimal carb, but vegetable, plant-based is rich in carbohydrates, just the right carbohydrates. And so understanding primary versus secondary foods and making sure you're satisfying both areas for nourishment is very important.
As are things like stabilizing your blood sugar. So having those regular balanced meals and healthful snacks in between that prevent the blood sugar spikes and crashes, which both affect our moods and energy levels. Really making sure we're getting those B vitamins and magnesium in, because both play a role in our stress response. So looking at whole grains, lean meats, or high quality animal proteins, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, magnesium rich foods like almonds, spinach, avocados. My cup of cacao that I have every day that I absolutely love. Magnesium is so key for so many different functions of the body. But one relevant to our talk now is really helping us to be calm and to be relaxed and help our stress response.
And just highlighting back up to the stabilizing blood sugar, something I'm seeing it's just so profound right now is insulin dysregulation. So glucose insulin insensitivity. And a very simple way to explain this is when we eat, we get glucose into our bloodstream. And glucose in our bloodstream is actually an oxidant. And we don't want oxidants floating around in our bloodstream. It actually contributes to more cellular wear and tear and inflammation. We want to get that glucose into our cells. And what does that is insulin. So I call insulin the school bus, and glucose is the kids going to school. So we want to get the kids into the school, and we need that insulin to get them there. But when you start to have increased inflammation, like post-pandemic, when there was a heightened inflammatory process in many ways, we then start sending out more buses. The buses are like, we've got to get those kids to school, but the kids aren't actually getting on the bus. So then we send more and more buses. And so it's an inefficient process. We want to be efficient with our glucose and our insulin, and we want the kids getting to school. So one bus, pick them all up, go, not multiple. And we don't want to have oxidative stress or oxidative damage. So really, really important to test fasting insulin on blood sugar or on blood work. I'm just seeing so many things there right now. And B vitamins, they are actually cofactors to make neurotransmitters. And B vitamins and magnesium are part of the Krebs cycle. So again, back to grade 9 science, just understanding all the cofactors that make our energy cycle go in order to make ATP. B vitamins and magnesium are just so key to that pathway. And omega-3 fatty acids is probably one of my #1 recommendations as a baseline, because it's so anti-inflammatory. And also on blood work, we're seeing a lot of low HDL. HDL is your healthy cholesterol, your high density lipoproteins. And I think that with chronic inflammation, this is causing our HDL to go down in ways. And so omega-3 fatty acids are very anti-inflammatory, and they boost up your good cholesterol. Great for brain health too.
Absolutely. Remaining hydrated is really important. It's really important for managing stress and burnout. And it's also important to keep in mind, we're going to talk about limiting stimulants as well, and limiting those, the extra cup of coffee that sometimes you want to reach for, that but may not be the best thing in the long run, because it ends up having a counter effect of making us a little bit more stressed, a little bit more wired, and also more dehydrated. So having to compensate for that, remembering to compensate when we're drinking coffee with extra fluids. And then mindful eating. Something I really love is really getting reconnected with the body. A lot of times in today's society, we're disconnected. We're disconnected from ourselves. We don't listen to our body. We try to control our bodies. I'm tired, reach for the cup of coffee. Like whatever it is, we want to control ourselves instead of listening to yourself. So mindful eating. Eat when we're hungry, stop eating when we're full, listening to your body, and just spending more and more time reconnecting and listening to your body. Our body is made up of so much wisdom over centuries and millennia of wisdom that's in our DNA and in our bones. And it's really just listening to that. Our mind is incredible and it knows so much and it has all of this knowledge, but really just giving the body credit for the knowledge that it has as well, and really taking that time to listen to your body. And I think that can be important when we're eating as well, and just listening to when we're hungry, and when we're full, and what do I actually need? What am I actually craving at a deeper level?
Reminds me to bring back a practice that I used to do, and it was so great. I have a singing bowl. So where you move the wand around the edge and it creates a singing sound, and it's so you have to be very mindful to keep the wand smooth around the edge so that the bowl sings. But a friend had taught me how great that was to do before eating, and it also has the vibration, the sound vibration that goes through your body. And so it was such a great thing to do at the dinner table before eating, and various graces or blessings to the food you're eating is a way to mindfully nourish yourself.
I love that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so in summary, today we've talked about how to understand your personal stress factors and to recognize the early signs of burnout. Maybe you're in full blown, and if that's you, definitely reach out to get the right support through it. And then we've also learned practical strategies to counteract stress and burnout and why they're important. We really touched on the key baselines and foundations to bring into your daily routines. And it's not easy, but it's also easy. So with the right nudge and with the right connection. And we also just can't emphasize enough how important it is to reach out for support and guidance. And we'd really love to hear from you. We'd love to answer your questions. We'd love to know what you took from today as the key highlights for you. And so we've come up with 3 things for homework and to decode your own stress response and your own stress signals. So how about you read them for us, Nicole?
So we'd love to hear from you. We both have put, both Tara and I have put our emails here, and we'd love for you to reach out to us and let us know the answers to these questions. So what was your strongest takeaway from the presentation? What are you struggling with? And what would you like to learn more about? We kind of touched on kind of the overview of different signs, things to look for, ways of managing stress and burnout. But do you have specific questions that you want to dig a little bit deeper into? What would you like to learn more about? And just send us an email. We'd love to hear from you and to connect more.
Mm-hmm. And so we're looking forward to carrying this conversation further. We'll be sharing more tips and strategies and insights along the way. And so stay tuned. We'll be back in touch with you, and we hope you will reach out to us as well. Have a great rest of your day, evening, whenever you're watching this. And here's to your highest health.
Here's to your highest health. Hope to hear from you and talk to you soon.
And there we go. Okay, presentation. And just thank you so much, Nicole. And your office is waiting for you here. And so, yeah, just really exciting to build out the mindset component of what we offer here at Higher Health.
I cannot wait to join the team. I cannot wait to meet all of your beautiful clients and to be part of this incredible team and to provide that well-rounded care that focuses on higher health.
And actually, I can't wait to redefine goals. I love that of what you said. It's so when I think about what I have to do in the day, I have your voice in my head saying, okay, redefine the goals.
Yeah, it's an important one, just to take that pause and it was a huge one for me as well, because I would always just keep plowing through and it's like, nope, step back, redefine the goal.
Yeah, and while preparing this, I was sending Nicole a message saying, I'm just in the red light room, I'm having acupuncture, I'm taking a self-care break. Or I'm proud to message to say, I'm sitting down in a different room, eating my lunch, mindfully chewing. So yeah, it's great. We'll talk more.
In case you're wondering, Tara practices what she preaches.
Yes, I do. And I can't wait to go cold plunging and paddling with you.
Me too. I cannot wait.
And tap dancing. Okay, we'll stop there.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.